My name is Samira and I'm a development practitioner by training. Currently I'm working as a social entrepreneur and an artist, and this is my story. I've never followed art per se, but I've always pursued art in various forms. And when this opportunity of having my own social enterprise came about, it just made natural sense to me. About 8 years ago, I started this group called Coffee in Dhaka with a few friends of mine to raise funds for different causes. One of the causes that we funded through our Coffee in Dhaka group was an NGO based in Mirpur, Dhaka. It takes people or women from the street who were sex workers or abused, living on the street, and they bring them into their organization and they counsel them with the hope that once they've gone through this counseling, they can then restart their lives and look after their children, take hold of their livelihoods. I went to that organization and I started volunteering there because I found the environment really appealing, and we started just taking supplies in for the kids because they also have a creche for little babies there. I brought in funds that I raised through my friends, and I saw that as a part of their counseling they were making these kathas. They were layering saris and they were locking the saris with this kantha stitch, which is very familiar in Bangladesh. The kathas they were producing were not being marketed properly or not being sold. So I said I wouldn't mind helping. I don't have a background, but that's how it all started. I started matching the materials for them because I found that their colors were off. The threads were not appropriate, they were not matching. So I told them then, put this on the top, put this on the bottom, and use these kind of threads. So as I started producing these pieces, they were much more appealing. But still we found it very difficult to sell because there were so many other organizations doing similar thing. So after a while it just made sense that to find another route to sell these beautiful places, because there's a lot of work that are going into it. Without giving much thought to this whole thing, I asked them if I could just buy it off them and I'll convert them into something that's more sellable maybe. So through a friend I bought 18 pieces and I converted them into apparels. And in December there was a Christmas craft fair we were invited to. So we just set up a table and we just presented our 18 pieces, and to our surprise, by the end of the day we sold 80% of our inventory. We kept on doing this for another 2 years, just going, mixing, designing for them, and that's how Sunbird came into being. And so I was quite smitten by these women and their spirit, just the stories that lay within them. When I started to go more frequently and got to know them, I spoke to them, and it was really heartbreaking stories, but yet they were there at the center every morning, having a hope for the future. So it sort of gave me some hope, and it just made sense for me to take it on at a bigger level. And at that point I sort of imagined, I visualized having a center for these women where they can work in a very safe environment, they can look after their kids at the same time and have an alternate livelihood. So I started buying these kathas. I sat and I started designing. I don't have a background in designing, but I always designed my own clothes, so I just took that into stride, and we converted these kathas into apparels. They are started off with jackets only, but now we've moved on to capes, we've moved on to little coaties. They're all handmade, so the stitches are done by these women, and with the inner and the outer are both chosen to complement each other. These are reversible products, so you can wear it both sides. So the materials I used for my apparels are upcycled, all local, made in Bangladesh. And I buy it from different markets in Dhaka who sell used products. I make sure the quality is good enough for it to be converted. I find that when I first started selling these, a lot of people were very interested in buying it. When I looked closely at the people who are buying it, they were mostly expats or people who are living in Bangladesh but not necessarily Bangladeshis. They found it very colorful, very boho, and also the whole ethical fashion line. They quite like that whatever they're spending is going towards a social cause. I think 2 years into displaying the products, I felt that we've reached a lull. When people, the inner circle and the outer circle, everybody had bought. I think it came to a point then, now what? How do we make this sustainable? And I think at that point I sort of had to look back and say I have to have a strategy here, because I know in my heart that this will fly. I mean, the products, the design, the patterns, the absolutely fantastic prints. I think people who see it and who have that mind, they absolutely buy it every time they come into the house. The biggest challenge is not having Sunbird out there where people can just walk in and pick a piece. And I haven't found a like-minded partner. I'm constantly looking wherever there's an opportunity for growth. I always go there and I tend to showcase Sunbird. Every piece that's sold, I keep aside 10% and I give it back to the families of these women who are making these katas for me. If you want to directly support these women, you can buy these products on Facebook. You can message me and text me and support the cause. The ethical fashion industry can become more competitive if they meet the need of the consumers and they instill this the thinking that they're doing it for a better cause. That ethical treatment of human beings and looking after our planet is a higher goal than scoring one piece of product that's cheap. With access to education and awareness, we will definitely get there. Thank you to Daekhopedia for bringing the story out, the story of Sunbird, the story of these women and the children behind it. Thank you.